impact do you think he has, or at
Okay.
least awareness of it?
All right. So Yoshi-P is in charge of the Final Fantasy XI team. He's incredibly aware of it. And when it comes down to it, him as an MMO player is Ultima Online. Like, he is a hardcore. He understands. He is an OG MMO player at its core. And so on that very note, he talked about this. There's not a business level or reason that can support that demand for an MMORPG like that. Now, Final Fantasy XI could be that. I think there is demand, and he acknowledges that players want something like 11 to exist, but not enough essentially that justifies the business level costs of it. And you can say, well, you know, like, take my money. Like, I want to pay for this. I think a lot of players will, but in terms of like MMOs existing not in a bubble, but other games, like if you think of the MMO genre competing against something like Game Pass, this is a legitimate issue, right? Like, because Game Pass is the same kind of cost, but it offers way more attractions, both
Yep.
MMO attractions
Well, it's like a
and
Netflix level
yeah,
value in gaming.
yeah. And then this is the podcast after the podcast, and we're just gonna wrap up with this final thought. So I argue, and I would love to see something of this nature. I've been playing Final Fantasy XI Classic, and it's hard. And the end game starts at level 1. I think that's one of the things I'd love to see MMOs get back to. But the challenge that I would put Yoshi-P, and if I ever get the opportunity to ask this question, especially as it relates to 11, especially as it relates to the need and the desire to have that kind of experience, like the classic coming back, what would it take to have a Final Fantasy XIV hardcore server? You can't transfer off of it. You can't transfer on it. But we're going to turn off some features. Maybe like Duty Finder goes away. My voice cracks. Count it. And at the same time, you know, we're going to make the regular mobs out in the world like destroy you. So it forces players to play together. That would be the case study. That would be the experiment that I would like to see if players are just all talk, or what does that community look like? I would venture to bet my theory on this, because that's the kind of gameplay I like when it comes to the MMO, that forcing players together. Obviously, time being constrained, not going to lie, that's why you don't make 14 hardcore. You just make a server that's dedicated to this kind of concept. Do people play it? And does that community, like, what does that community look like? Because you could literally have the A/B test, right? You could say, well, does dude like are the which servers are more toxic, the hardcore or the normal servers? And being that you couldn't transfer onto it and you couldn't transfer onto it, every level is hard earned, every level is fought for, etc. And so at the end of the day, it's just something that I would like to see, especially because Yoshi-P acknowledging that there is a market, but not a big enough market that they could justify the business costs for it. And so if they did something like that, I think that would be fascinating. But I don't foresee it in the long run. But he is in charge of 11. He is aware of 11, and I would love to see more support of 11. And they are working on something for the 20th anniversary. I just did a podcast with Invictus and with Benny from Comic Story and absolutely PlayStation and Steam Games. He just launched a new channel, and we talked about this. So you guys can go check that over on Ginger Gaming Radio if you guys want more information and more insight into Final Fantasy XI, because next year it's the 20th anniversary, and they say something big is coming. I don't know what that big is, but man, if it was Unreal Engine, I think I'd tear up. What do you think, Chris?
I mean, for me, I get nervous about throwing something away when I think people underestimate how much it would take to rebuild what we have. Because it's not about 6.0, it's not about 7.0, it's not about content patches. It's about the fact that we have a backlog of work. And so starting in a void, yes, you get to take your knowledge with you, but you don't get to take your work with you. And so, you know, when you go to a new job, yes, you have everything you've learned from your previous job. You have everything that you're really good at, but you have no reputation there. You have no relationships with the other people that work there. You have no portfolio of work there. You have no knowledge of their systems. And so when you go into a new game, Destiny 1 to Destiny 2, Guild Wars 1 to Guild Wars 2, it's different. And there's not as much content there. And so For me, I would rather see 14 go through engine overhauls. I would rather see them things like what you're describing with the hardcore server. I would rather see them go to places like Xbox. I would rather see them take more risks with alternate forms of gameplay and say, hey, we've dropped to one dungeon per patch, but we're going to add a deep dungeon plus mode. We're going to savage mode. We're going to add savage role quests, and we're going to add more things like Ishgard Restoration. We're going to just broaden the game to make it do more things or try new things, and then we're going to cut what doesn't work, and we're going to build in a new direction. And over time, it won't represent what it would, but I would rather do that gradually through a learning and iterative process where each expansion we explore a set of ideas, we keep what works, we toss what doesn't, and rather than this kind of it's really fun and really easy to kind of throw it in the bin. When you're playing SimCity, it's really easy to say, man, I'm just going to start over. There's a value to sticking with it. There's a value to seeing if you can learn from and fix and getting deeper into it than just saying, I'm just going to start over every time it gets to the point where I feel like it's holding me back.
Do I think that Final Fantasy XI is the 11th shard of 14? I don't, but I would love to be wrong. I would love to see more of a connection with 14 and 11.
What a crossover event that would be. You think Nier was canon.
Well, you've already had crossover events with 11, so there is canon already to it. Shantoto, a popular character from Final Fantasy XI, has been in 14, and they did this big event with it. It was awesome. That we've seen other events that have connections to 11. So the theory is that maybe 11th is the 11th shard. I don't think it is, in the sense that, is it like Vanadil, or is it a version of Vanadil in the 14 universe, or something like that?
I want remaster of 11, announcing canonically that it is the 11th shard, and with a new piece of content tied to it, and a content piece such as an Alliance raid series or a side quest series or a trial, inviting me to try 11 style mechanics within 14, maybe an 11 style diadem or something like that, allowing me to go get invested in that space. That's the sort of thing that could probably bring me over, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
That's the sort of thing that could say, well, guys, we're going to be playing 11 this week.
It would be interesting. It would take me 20 years, and I finally would get Chris to play Final Fantasy XI. I think there are some requirements, though. Like
shut the channel down. Goal complete.
Goal complete. my
longest, most effort-driven con ever.
But then you'd be like, "This game's incredible! Like, how did I con you? I didn't con you." Last note before we wrap up, because I'm gonna go. My kids got swim lessons. I'm gonna go cheer them on. They've been doing that this week, so I'm excited to see them. They're excited to show me their skills with diving now. So, Casual Nerd Jason, awesome. By the way, I love you. You're always a big, awesome part of the community. I love seeing your comments saying, not that I agree or disagree, but the hardcore mode sounds like it goes against the you can beat the game on any job. Interesting to mandate the group play. And yeah, it would. Like, when I say hardcore server, yeah, like, you could sit here and say everything's harder. Some jobs probably would say, like, you don't want to take this job on this piece of content. We need X, Y, and Z. That would not dictate any change in 14 for anything we do today. Like, it's literally like, listen, we get that there are players who want a real challenge. They want that old school Final Fantasy XI EverQuest, like, don't go alone, you're going to get murdered, kind of experience. And we made it. But it's over here.
And people will push meta.
Oh, people push meta even in current 14.
Because Red Mage was believed to be the only one that would stand a chance of fully clearing Palace of the Dead, and that is just not true. It started. I think Red Mage was the first one to get the full clear for the solo towers.
Yeah.
But people now are like, what other jobs can I do it on?
Yeah. So it's just it would be something that would be an aside. I haven't, it's something that it keeps coming up in my mind and in different conversations. So I thought you guys would hopefully enjoy that Final Fantasy XI mini cast at the end of our podcast. That will not be in the audio format, guys. So just enjoy it with us here. I'll probably put this up on Work to Game as a video, maybe on Sunday or something like that. So guys, if you're watching the video, you're amazing. Thanks for watching Work to Game. My name is Brian.
My name's Chris.
You are an incredible person. Like, favorite, subscribe, share, and clip. And tweet us your clips. Be sure to tweet us the clips. of the podcast or different videos, and that will help me curate those clips and then turn those into fun shorts and things like that. So there's I've got some content plans for you guys based off of the things that you enjoy that we say, or the things that you hate that we say. I'm not gonna discriminate. You know, the anti-work to game fans are more than welcome to come in and clip, you know, me kind of rubbing my
wife
nose.
asked me point blank yesterday if I have hate followers.
You do.
And I said wholeheartedly.
100%. All right, guys.
Wholeheartedly.